Happy Friday, everybody. This is John Morrow. Welcome to Resolve to Live Forward, the podcast. Thank you for joining me. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. This, for those of you that are actually listening, as is this podcast has just been launched at 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time in the United States of America, where I live. This is the seventh day of the eighth month of the year 2026. And all I can do is say to myself, wow, are we already through 7 months of the calendar year? And we're moving in to what we would call normally the last official month of summer. School is getting ready to start back for so many, not just in elementary, middle, and high school, but many college campuses are gearing up. College football is going to be starting soon, and I'm so excited about that. Let me fix my clock here real quick, if I may, because I need to take this moment to just track myself and keep track of my time because many of you know that I'm a Toastmaster and I have this three-letter identifier after my name. The letters are DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster. Ask any Toastmaster, they'll tell you just exactly what that DTM actually stands for. It stands for one of two things. Either don't time me, however, I should be timed in this particular case, or more commonly in my case, does talk more. Oh my goodness. We started this series of episodes in the idea of resolving to live forward and how to make that a reality and to see yourself moving forward. I've shared with you a number of quotes. One recently was that success begins with a choice. Well, in the case of resolving to live forward, not moving past the devastation that may have occurred in your life, the grief that you are carrying, and grief comes in many ways, form, shape, and fashion. It just happened in my particular life to come by way of the death of my incredible wife, Donna. We were married almost 46 years and were madly in love with each other for over 46 years. As a matter of fact, this September of 2026 will represent the 53rd, actually the 54th anniversary of when I first met Donna in September of 1972 on the campus of Trevecca Nazarene College, which is today Trevecca Nazarene University in Nashville, Tennessee, and in a city that has changed so radically from what it was like when I was there between 1969 and 1973. But it is an amazing city, an incredible destination, and many of those images that were a part of my life there at Trevecca, which is now a university, are still very much there, but so much, much, much more. But I digress. Welcome. This is actually episode number 19 in the series that began in April that would cover a 6 month period of time. So we're beginning the fifth month of this series. We still have the month of August and the month of September, and hopefully it will be wrapped up with the final episode on the final Friday of the month of September. By that time, we'll be into college football, and I will be just eating that up because I love my college football. Welcome to episode 19, entitled The Quiet Strength of Consistency. The Quiet Strength of Consistency. I'm going to open with a quotation. I don't know who the author is, but I want to share it with you. Extraordinary lives are rarely built on extraordinary moments. More often, extraordinary lives are built on ordinary moments that are repeated with an extraordinary consistency. Yes, yeah, I'll read that again so you can make note of it. Quote, Extraordinary lives are rarely built on extraordinary moments, but rather they are built on extraordinary moments that are repeated with extraordinary consistency. Have you ever noticed how we tend to celebrate the big moments in life, such as promotions, graduation, receiving an award, a milestone birthday, the publishing of a book, a standing ovation, the winning of a trophy at a particular speaking contest, and other such milestone moments? And need I forget, too, milestone moments include marriages, anniversaries, the birth of grandchildren, incredible moments. But those moments are moments that, yes, should be celebrated, and they represent achievement, perseverance, success, and blessing. But there is something that I have come to believe as your host today. These moments don't define the lives that we live nearly as much as what falls in between those days, what I call the regular, everyday, ordinary, sometimes not so easy, but always important days of our lives where we're not having any of those milestone moments. Days when there's no applause, days when making progress almost seems invisible, days when we simply need to do the next right or the next best thing. And that's where the consistency actually lives, and that's where it's best practiced and expressed. Consistency has a quiet strength about it. When I wrote the book, Resolve, Your Blueprint for Intentional Success, which is available for you on Amazon as a paperback as well as a Kindle download, in writing the book, I was not trying initially to write another motivational slogan. I did have somebody by the name of Mark Guy, a dear friend of mine, still a good friend of mine, who kept a velvet thumb in my back. And in keeping that velvet thumb in my back, he pushed me to write those chapters. And as those chapters were being written and then being reviewed and edited, more information was fleshed out. After all, it was my first and remains still my only book. But I learned something, because resilience is not something you practice only if there is a crisis or a challenge facing you. Resilience is something you do every single day by the very act of doing, by taking one step forward at a time. Engagement is not reserved for special occasions and special events and parties and conferences and conventions and celebrations. They're important, but engagement is about everyday things you do when you see people. Service is not something you schedule, it's something you often do on the spur of the moment out of a compassionate compunction to just simply step up and help someone. Learning doesn't end when you receive a diploma. Trust me when I tell you, if you ask me what the one thing is I do perhaps more than anything else in my life, it's learn. I'm constantly learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I live to learn. I love to learn, and I find that learning gives me life and vibrancy. Vision, particularly a visionary mindset, is not just for people who run businesses. You can use your vision to imagine, to dream, and to frame the best version of you that you want to be and to accomplish that thing that you want to achieve. But it requires that you do it consistently. Enthusiasm is not the property of people who are younger than someone like myself. I'm 76. But the last letter in the power word resolve, that last letter E, is for enthusiasm. And enthusiasm is not something you choose to do one day and then set aside another. Enthusiasm is a continuous, consistent, persistent behavior. So these are choices, and you make them daily. Some days are better than others. Some days are easier than others. Some days, though, require tremendous determination. But every single day that you do them, they matter. I've learned something over these years that I have lived. Sometimes through the natural process of just of just enjoying the learning experience. And sometimes I've been put in situations where I was forced to learn. People often overestimate what they can accomplish during the course of a week while underestimating what they can accomplish in the course of a year. And you know what the important critical factor in that is? It's doing the consistent things and the right things and the best things each and every single day. And that is where accomplishment comes. It comes through consistency day by day, week by week, month by month, over the course of the year. And when you look back, if you do look back and you take an inventory or take stock, whatever you want to call it, you discover something. You overlook the power of consistency if you're not careful. But consistency is like taking a book that really has a meaningful message in it and writing 10, or not writing, but reading 10 pages a day. Now, that may not seem remarkable, but guess what? It works. Writing down one paragraph of thanks every day, taking time to walk 15 to 20 minutes, as many days a week as possible, finding activity and doing things, not because you feel like it, but because it's part of being consistent. Offering one sincere word of encouragement every day to some individual, no matter how you express that, whether you do it in written form, such as through an email, a letter, or a text, or whether you do it in person or you do it through a telephone call, even on Zoom. Yeah, I do a lot of Zoom, as you can tell. When you multiply these actions on a day-by-day basis, it becomes weeks. Then you multiply the weeks, they add up to months. And finally, the months add up to years. And consistency will be quietly changing you and me and everyone else, because what consistency is doing, it is, well, for one thing, it's sharpening our character. It's making us a more consistent, dependable, reliable person of character. We don't have to explain ourselves. We don't have to let people know who we are and what we're like, because our lives have been lived out in front of them. They know us. And this is not something that's acquired instantaneously. That type of trust comes from consistency. Character then strengthens our habits. Our habits being strengthened earn us the trust of others. And perhaps most importantly of all, consistency quietly reminds us that progress does not require perfection. Perfection has nothing to do with it. The more important word in consistency is persistence. Perfection, actually, I don't think is so much fun. It's good to get something perfect, but most of the time we don't get things perfect. What we do is we get them better. And we learn as we're going along, and we actually can wind up having a lot of fun. Now, some things we want them to be as close to perfect as possible. My wife was close enough to perfect for me, as the songwriters of Alabama, the country music band from a few decades back, said. But at the same time, I remember it was John Legend who said to his wife, perfect imperfections. Reminds us that perfection doesn't require anything other than us being persistent, because we'll probably not achieve perfection, but persistency will make us a better version of ourselves and make the people around you better people, and will make your life a better life. But persistence is something that is required. It's necessary. It goes back to the consistency. Do the right stuff every day. Reason why I talk about that the way I do is because resolve, the power word, and the first word in the title of my book, is defined as one having a definite, firm plan of action. I am a person of resolve. I have a definite, firm plan of action. Now, do I get it right every day? No. And there are some days whenever I languish. It's honest. It's true. But it is the fact that I'm human, because there are some days when I'm just not feeling my best. But woven within those seven letters, RESOLVE, are those seven behaviors that you hear me talk about very often. Letter R for resilience, E for engagement, S for service, O for organization, L for learning and constantly learning, learning for life, V for having a vision and being visionary in your thinking, and the last letter, E, always capping it off with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm being the force that drives you to do even when you don't feel. And I've said before in previous podcasts, sometimes you have to choose to be enthusiastic. You have to will yourself to be enthusiastic. But you see, that's persistence, that's consistency, and that's doing it when you don't feel like doing it. Because there are seasons in our lives when we don't feel especially strong. And I can repeat for you something you've heard me say it before, but I can't say it enough. When my wife, Donna, died, after that experience, there were days when simply getting through the day felt like not just a struggle, but to get through the day and to look back, wow, I actually accomplished that. Didn't perhaps maybe have much to show it, but I did it. I got there. And I think probably, if I'm honest with myself, even though I may at times feel like I didn't accomplish much, in reality, I probably accomplished more than I began to realize. And the more these accumulate, the more it begins to become evident of things that I've accomplished, the change that's taking place in my life, the transformation that has taken place in my life. And let me tell you what, the grief is still as fresh and raw and painful as it ever was. But hear me out. If you want to find a way to live forward while carrying that devastation, you need a process. You need a framework. You need tools. I had the power word and I had the seven best practices already in place because my wife played a significant role in helping me create that word, and it was our word, not just mine. But I would be honest with you, going through the course of this life as I live every day and going back especially to those difficult days in mid 2019, I didn't have every answer. I didn't know exactly what the future would even look like. I couldn't even begin to imagine it. So many things that were blurry, unclear, and some things there was nothing there but a dark opening, and you didn't know whether to take that step or not. But that's when I kept taking those small steps. And what do some of those steps look like? Well, I kept writing, and with the encouragement of friends, I kept writing. Always learning, hungry to learn. And I did that with books and with videos and with staying active in organizations like Toastmasters and staying active in my church and in scripture. I kept doing my public speaking and I honed my craft and I kept serving people and teaching and mentoring and providing guidance. And I found that there was a place there where I could make a difference in the lives of people. And I look back and I realized small, consistent choices began to bridge that gap between my grief and what my true purpose in living was. None of us can control everything that happens to us on a day by day basis. Life has a way of really surprising us. Or, as friends of mine who love the game of baseball, life has a way of throwing curveballs. But we can control how faithfully we show up for every day. Let me say that again. You can control faithfully how you show up for every single day of your life. And that doesn't mean show up for your kitty cats or your pets or show up for your television set or your kitchen or a plate of food. I'm talking about show up for people out there in the world who care about you. You care about them and the people that you have yet to come in contact with that you will come to care for, and they will grow to care about you. Maybe The day that you get up is the day that you read that one more chapter of an incredible book that someone told you about that can really help transform your life. Whether you're reading it or listening to it, like I do a lot of times in my car on Audible. Or maybe it's the day you encourage someone who desperately needs to hear a kind word. Not what you think, not about you, what you have to say about them and why they matter to you and matter to the world. Do not underestimate making one good decision at a time and doing it consistently day in and day out. Small actions, when repeated faithfully, have a surprisingly remarkable way of shaping extraordinary lives. Let me repeat that. Small actions repeated on a faithful basis, on a daytime by daytime basis, have a remarkable way of shaping an extraordinary life. If I can do it, you can do it. So today I'd like to leave you with a question. What is one small, meaningful action that you can repeat consistently this week? Yes, I will say it again because some of you are writing it down. What is one small, meaningful action that you can repeat consistently in the week that lies ahead? I'm not talking about writing down 10 action items on a to-do list. I'm definitely not talking about a complete makeover. I'm talking about one choice. Remember that phrase I said in a previous episode? Success starts with a choice. Just one. One intentional habit that is practiced consistently is often more powerful than 1 dozen good intentions that actually never even leave the starting line. If you want to picture it from like a track and field event and the gun goes off and only one of them takes off, that one is worth it because you'll make the laps and you'll eventually arrive at the finish line. As we close today, remember this. We don't have to be spectacular every day. We simply have to remain intentionally consistent. Consistent in showing up. Consistent in engaging with the people that we show up for or meet in the course of the day. Consistent in seeking to learn and to know more and to grow our minds and to keep our minds vibrant and healthy. Consistent in desiring to serve more so than to be served. Consistent in the idea of growing ourselves as a complete human being, not just for our own selfish purposes, but for the purposes of giving to the world something that the world sees as giving it value. You can be the most important thing in the lives of people and in the lives of your community, and especially in the lives of the people that you love and your family. One day you'll look back and discover that we thought we were looking at something very ordinary in terms of the days that we were living on a quiet basis, but what was really taking place was quietly building an extraordinary life. Quietly building an extraordinary life. I know there are times when we can get loud, but the real extraordinary things take place quietly, seemingly unnoticed, by some considered insignificant. but in the course of your life and who you are and what each and every single day that's been gifted to you means. These are the things that make you an extraordinary individual. As I've said, and I'll say again and again and again, success begins with a choice. Living forward is a choice. But in choosing to live forward, you need a framework. And I would encourage you to consider the framework that is the embodiment of the message that I share with you. The Resolve lifestyle. Power word resolve. Be a person who has a definite, firm plan of action. You have a definite end in mind. You are on the journey, and you know that along that journey to that definite, firm plan of action and end that you have in mind, there are milestone markers of learning, and there are bumps that also teach us, and they make us better people and better equipped. And sometimes we have to set aside a tool that no longer is useful and pick up a new tool as we move forward. Part of getting your head in the right space is remember the 7 behaviors that are embodied in the 7 letters that spell resolve. RESOLVE. Be resilience. And resilience is not just getting up off the floor when you're knocked down. Resilience is pulling the covers off of you, getting up out of bed, putting your feet on the floor, and taking that first small step in the living forward process. When you get up, engage not just that which you already expect to do and need to do and must do during the course of the day, but engage what comes to you randomly through the process of being in the world and not segregated from the world. Always look for a way to serve. Be careful to protect yourself. Don't let people take advantage of you, but be unselfish in your service to others and give what you have, especially of your best self, to help others become successful in their life. Always be organized. Have some structure, have some plan, have a reasonable sense that you know that this will be here, and you are prepared and able to engage everything. And when something comes into your life, you are where you can put it in a place that it will become a part of that organizational structure that you live each and every day. Part of that process that you've just done through resilience, engagement, service, and organization is you are learning. If you stop learning, my feeling is you'll start to slowly die. But if you keep learning, and in learning, you also learn to find a way to differentiate and vet that information to get out of it what is the best possible information that will benefit you and benefit the world that you're engaging and serving in, you will have an amazing mindset. Don't be afraid to dream. Visualize that dream and put more and more details into that dream as you envision it becoming a reality. And most importantly of all, the one thing that you must do, whether you're feeling like it or not, be enthused. I think of my good friend David James, distinguished Toastmaster. David is in a time of his life where he doesn't get to engage nearly as much because he's advanced in age and he is caring for his wife. But I called David Mr. Enthusiasm, and so did a lot of Toastmasters. And why? Because David said the one thing that you can bring to the world every day is enthusiasm. 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 He always said it 3 times. So live with enthusiasm. That's the resolve mindset. That's the resolve structure. And that's a structure that has helped not just to give my life meaningfulness, but I'll be honest with you, I think it saved my life because I could have gone to that dark place. And as Andy Dufresne said, I could have gotten busy with waiting to die. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me on this, the first Friday of the month of August. I hope this day and this forthcoming week are a blessing for you, and I look forward to having you join me again at this time next week. I always publish this podcast through the services of the hosting platform Buzzsprout. And it's on Spotify and it's in the Apple Store, but it also goes out on other audio podcast platforms. I also videotape this. It's not the best videotape in the world, but I do upload it to my YouTube channel of the same name, Resolve to Live Forward. I'm John Morrow. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for touching my life by being with me here today. And I hope and pray that I've done something to make your day meaningful. Remember, do one thing consistently for the forthcoming week and watch your life become extraordinary. And always remember as I close, resolve to live forward. So long.